I think is working. Still says waiting. Oh, okay, now it's up. Okay. So let me send you the link. Since it's live and we're just setting it up, we don't really need an intro for this one.
That's true.
You go through?
Yep.
All right. And yeah, I'll fix the face cams in a second.
Very good.
You go through?
And the delay is crazy.
Okay. Let me fix the face cams. Why isn't that one working? Okay. Yours is working now. Gonna figure out mine. Okay. Should be good. So, you want to start with the Dame stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Damian Lillard requested a trade out of Portland finally after many years of rumored trades, like every offseason, every trade deadline. So far, we know that the Heat are trying to get him, but they want to send Tyler Hero to another team because the Blazers do not need another guard. What do you think's gonna happen with Dame?
I don't know. I mean, Dame to Miami is scary. So like my bias like wants him to not go to Miami. Um, he said it multiple times now. Like before he even requested a trade, he said that Miami was the destination he wanted to go to.
Yeah.
Um, I did see something from Clutch Point saying that the Spurs are now an option.
Yeah, Ramona Shelburne broke that down on
Yeah,
ESPN. He likes Popovich and Wembanyama.
yeah. I mean, pairing Dame with Wemby would be crazy. Um, I mean, they wouldn't have that long together, but they could make a pretty good run. I don't think Dame is necessarily the right piece for them right now because he is older and they're such a
Yeah.
young team. They're gonna be able to compete with the roster they have in a few years. Um, Dame to Philly is another option, but they're not. Philly's not willing to trade Tyrese Maxey, so I don't see a deal getting done there. They're not gonna just do it for Tobias Harris, or I don't think they do it for James Harden because they wouldn't really be getting an upgrade there. Um, so I don't know. I mean, Miami is probably the most likely destination. Um, but it's about how much they're willing to give up. I mean, if they do get him, regardless of who they give up, they'll be scary.
Yeah,
So
I
they'll put.
think right now they're just working for the 3-team deal for that to happen. And I saw the Brooklyn Nets are interested in Hero. So I don't know who the Nets would send Portland.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
they
they
have
did
a
lose.
ton of draft picks, so they'd send draft picks, but they're not trading Cam Johnson, who they just extended. They're not trading Bridges. So I don't
Yeah,
know what Portland would want from them. So A Dame trade to Miami. I mean, that's what he wants. The organization obviously is going to try and accommodate his request with his loyalty there for 11 years, but
Yeah,
I don't know what that deal looks like because I don't know what third team would get involved to where it would make sense for Portland.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Miami might just have to budge, but I don't know. Maybe he doesn't get a deal as soon as he hopes he will.
Okay, let's move on to the next trade is James Harden. So he opted into his player option for about $35 million, and now he is requesting a trade. The Clippers are among the teams interested, so are the New York Knicks. And you, as a Sixers fan, have a unique perspective on this. So, what do you think about the Harden trade?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't think he would have. Like, the reports were saying that he was mad about how the Sixers handled free agency with him. I don't think he would have opted into his contract if he didn't think that it was like even somewhat of a possibility he might have to play for them for a while next year. Because like, yeah, they're gonna try and like help him find a trade that works for him that he wants to do, but he knows Daryl Morey, and like Daryl Morey is a finesser. He's not a finessee, so he's not gonna let himself like just give up Harden for nothing. Like what we got Harden for in the first place, like that's what Daryl Morey is.
Yeah,
So we're not gonna give up like the Clippers. Okay, give us Paul George. He's not gonna just let James Harden walk for a small price just because James Harden wants to leave. And there are reports saying that the Sixers are trying to like I think Morey specifically is trying to work with Harden to like they're still interested in work like having him on the team next season, regardless of him requesting a trade. So I don't know. I think the more likely option is that he starts the season as a Sixer, and maybe like at the deadline or by the deadline he'll be moved. Um, I don't see the Clippers working, especially they got Russ now.
yeah.
Like they signed him. There's not as much of a need. I mean, Harden's a lot better than Russ is, but there's just not really enough there. That's not in their big three or what would be in their big three. So
Yeah, I think the Clippers, obviously talent-wise, it would work, but finding a trade that the Sixers would accept is the hard part. They don't want to include Paul George. They're not going to trade Kawhi Leonard. So they could trade Marcus Morris and Norman Powell and picks. That's not
yeah,
very enticing for Philadelphia, who's still trying to contend around Joel Embiid. So New York probably has the best package. Um, but again, if they can work something out, splitting up Embiid and Harden, I don't think
yeah.
they should do yet. I think they should try one more year.
I
And
mean,
then when Harden hits free
I expect
agency next year, you could see what happens.
yeah, I expected them to run it back for another year. Um, I like it did shock me that he requested a trade because I would be more like I just thought he was gonna walk in free agency if anything.
Yeah,
Um, but that's why I say like I don't think he would have opted in if he didn't think it was somewhat of a possibility he'd be playing again. And like I think one of the reports were saying that like he would be open to playing for the Sixers possibly because they are still a contender. So he'd want to be traded to a contender. But he's already on one, so if he has to play for the Sixers, it's not the end of the world.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I just don't think it's not as urgent as Ben Simmons because he's not just gonna take a year off of basketball. If Harden does that, he might as well retire because he's
Yeah, he's
like
up there in
old.
age. Simmons did
Yeah,
it when he was still young. Obviously, it still ended up hurting him, but it
I mean,
it
if
was he
a
was
year off,
able to have the flexibility to do it.
I mean, you never like the type of contract he'd get when he comes back as a free agent. Probably not be pretty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know what Harden's market's really going to be at this point. So we have two all-star guards on the trade market, and we don't even know if a deal will be struck for Lillard. I'm sure they'll honor it. I don't know
Yeah.
how fast it'll be. It might take time because I also read they still want to be competitive, so they want a star in return. And I think it'll be a younger star. I don't think they want Harden. I don't think it'll be a swap like
Yeah.
that. So that'll be interesting to see. Now, we've had some big signings so far. What would you take away as your biggest signing in free agency?
Hmm. I don't know. I'd say like the pairing. I mean, I have two Western Conference teams. One of them I'm biased for, but two Western Conference teams that are like killing it right now. Um, and that's the Suns and the Rockets. And the Rockets are overpaying like crazy, but they do have the ability to do that.
Yeah,
And now they've added depth to a young team that already has like potential in their young stars, and they've added a pretty nitty gritty defender and Dylan Brooks. And I mean, people clown Dylan Brooks, but he's a good player. Like he's a
yeah.
solid player on your team. Uh, not 20 M's a year, but he's a good player. Um, and picking up Fred, like Fred's not the same player like he was a couple years ago, but I still think he can have an impact on that team. And definitely add to their scoring. I mean, the Rockets are definitely not going to be the worst team in the league this year. I Playoffs maybe, but it's definitely a step in the right direction, adding more experience to the roster. Um, so I think they're definitely getting better. And then the Suns, they beat the no depth allegations. They're signed a whole bunch of players to have on their bench, and maybe they're not all great, but with their current roster, if they keep Aiton, their current roster, I mean, Doc Lando was sad to see him go.
Yeah.
Um, that was definitely a signing that they should have had, but um,
Well,
getting
they pulled
Utah,
their offer to him, didn't they? Because wasn't he going to be restricted, but then they pulled the qualifying offer?
that's what I thought. I thought he was restricted.
Yeah, they pulled it at like the last second. I saw that yesterday.
I mean, he was a stud. Like it was fun to watch him like go into games at times. Like when Aiton wasn't bringing it, he'll come off the bench and he just like maybe not contribute that much, but just change the energy, change the momentum.
Yeah, he was
And he
definitely. Hang on, I'm gonna go turn on my light in here, but he was definitely impactful in the playoffs when they needed Aiton to be playing better, and Aiton was struggling. He came in and helped them, especially in the Denver series, even though they ended up losing.
yeah,
But
I mean,
he was gonna get a payday. Maybe they just realized they weren't gonna be able to bring him back. That's why they pulled the offer.
and they definitely use their money to just get a bunch of guys. And hopefully there's some hidden gems in there. Um, but I think adding Bradley Beal to the lineup definitely helps because I mean Bradley Beal has been a 20 and 30 point per game scorer for pretty much his like entire career, or not entire, but for the last I don't know 5 years. Like he's just been consistently very good at scoring the ball. Not a great defender, but as a team, the Suns aren't great on defense anyways.
Yeah.
So might as well improve on their offense in their starting lineup if they're gonna be bad on defense anyways. I don't know, like it's gonna be a pretty positionless team. They're just gonna be trying to move and score the ball, but I think Devin Booker and Kevin Durant will get to display their playmaking abilities more with someone like Bradley Beal on the team, who can be a catch and shoot guy and can create his own shots. Chris Paul was more of a playmaker than both of them, so he's looking to distribute the ball rather than score it. But when you have a threat like Bradley Beal that can score the ball at will, or you can play off and can you bring him the rock if he's open and trust him to hit it, unlike Chris Paul, then I think it's a major improvement there. I don't know if they're good enough to beat Denver yet, but I think it's definitely a step in the right direction too. getting to that milestone.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who is like their main playmaker because
Yeah,
Cam Payne is more of a score first point guard to begin with. Like he can play make a little bit, but
yeah,
I don't know if they're even going to start him. They might start Booker at the one. And Booker's shown flashes of being a good playmaker when he's been given the opportunity. And Kevin Durant, also as a point forward, has shown flashes of being good in that role. So it'll be interesting. They have a ton of offense. I just don't
yeah.
know who will be the initiator for
I
them
mean,
yet.
defensively they're gonna suck. That's why I wanted
Yeah,
someone like Dylan Brooks to like be an anchor in the offense. They don't have a defensive anchor really.
yeah.
Um, so they're really just gonna have to go all out and score 170 points a game. But you know,
Yeah, they definitely have the offensive firepower. It'll be interesting in the playoffs when the game slows down to see if they can get key stops
yeah,
because there's two teams out west that I think match up with them pretty well, and that's the Nuggets who just beat them and the Lakers. The Lakers have obviously the star duo of LeBron and AD,
yeah. The Lakers,
and they have a lot of depth.
yeah,
They're one of the deepest teams in the league after their signings. Torian Prince, I like that right off the bat. That
yeah.
was
That
their
was
first signing. Good 3-and-D guy, shot 38% from three last year, and he could guard multiple positions. And then they got Gabe Vincent to replace Dennis Schroeder as the backup point guard on a 3-year, $33 million deal. And he was key on the Heat's run to the finals this year. He had a really good postseason, good
yeah,
3-point shooter, solid defender. Then re-signed Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, and D'Angelo Russell. Three key players. Russell struggled in the Denver series, but before that he was really good for them.
yeah,
So
and,
I think there's a lot of fans that have been hating on Russell. He had one bad series, and they got him
mm,
on a 2-year, $37 million deal. That's a really good deal for him.
yeah,
And
I,
Reeves, way cheaper deal than I thought it was going to be.
yeah.
It was the
I mean,
max the Lakers could offer him, 4 years, 56. I thought another team was going to offer him something more to where we'd have to match. Because people were talking about like $100 million for Reeves.
that would have been ridiculous. And
Yeah,
but there are people getting paid crazy amounts of money now. So,
yes. Yeah, and
um,
they were going to do anything they could to match. So they would have matched 100. So I'm glad we got him for 4 years, 56 million.
the Lakers are another team that have had a really good off season so far. I definitely think they've gotten better. And the Suns, it'd be a really weird matchup in the playoffs because you'd
It
have
would
like
be.
you have a 6 man rotation versus like a whole heap of depth, and you know fatigue would definitely come into play for that. So the Lakers would have an advantage there. Um, and like the Suns have a lot of players that they can put into rotation that are decent, but they're all kind of around the same level. So it's not like you're gonna get a stud off the bench, really, like
Yeah,
consistently. Um, you might have someone like about a game or two, but I don't know. It's really gonna be the starting five, and I'm glad they have more bench pieces because we had so little people on our roster a few weeks ago. But I mean, it's they're still not a great bench. They have a couple pieces that are, you know, enticing, but other than that, it's still a pretty weak bench, and they're gonna have to rely heavily on the offense of our starting five. Um, and they're gonna have to play an insane amount of minutes in the playoffs like they did this year.
yeah. And
I
that
just
can
think,
wear on Durant for sure, who has had injury problems the last few years.
yeah, I definitely trust Beal in that situation more than Chris Paul though too, because Chris Paul is at the age he can't do that anymore. But they're really only if they keep this like group together, they're only gonna have another year, maybe two to like for the championship window because Durant is gonna age,
Yeah,
and if Beal's still with them, Beal is gonna age too, and they're not gonna be able to keep up that pace. So they'd either have to go all in on a great bench or just kind of leave it. And hope and pray for a championship.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they work out together. We also haven't seen Beal deep into the playoffs,
Yeah,
so I want to see what how he plays as that goes on. Not that he won't be a clutch player then, it's just he hasn't had that many games in a season, so he might be more fatigued by then too, just not having that experience of going on a deep run.
that's true. He also has to adjust into being a third option on the team.
For sure. Yeah,
And
that's gonna be an adjustment period.
I think like one of the biggest things that I pushed last season when we signed Durant is the person that's going to benefit most from that is Devin Booker. And I think Beal is going to benefit a lot from having Booker and Durant on the team because he's going to have a lot of sneaky opportunities to score on a bad defender.
Yeah,
Um, Booker just, I mean, he was on another level, like just regardless of Durant being there. But Durant, like from the jump, Booker took another, like a next step in his play. Um, and the people guarding him are obviously now more cautious of Durant because you can't leave Kevin Durant open. It's Kevin Durant.
yeah,
And now Booker, with like his dominance in the playoffs, like, except for the last game, his dominance in the playoffs, nobody's gonna want to leave him open either. So if you try to double Booker or you try to double Durant, you'll have Beal open, and Beal can knock down the shots or he can take it to the basket. He's a really tough finisher. Chris Paul was not.
yeah,
Chris Paul was not somebody that could just get the ball and score it for himself at the basket. So I think that's the pace that Beal plays at. I think could be helpful for the Suns because they do. I mean, there's times where they like to slow it down, and they have some like good passing or they slow it down between Durant and Booker. But if they just ISO with Beal and then go get a bucket, you can't do that with Chris Paul. That's what you get out of Beal that you don't get out of Paul.
yeah. We have a comment. Damian Lillard has not been traded yet. They were asking, but
Uh,
he, like we talked about it already. We'll touch on it again. He has suitors. It's the Heat are the main push for him right now. They're looking for a three-team trade because the Blazers do not want Tyler Hero. The Heat would have to include Hero to land Dame, but they're trying to facilitate him to a third team. So we'll find out. The Nets are interested in Hero, but we already discussed we don't know what the Nets would have that Portland would then want. They could trade Ben Simmons. Again, Portland's not going to want Ben Simmons. They do have a lot of first round picks from the Kevin Durant trade, and I think they got one or two in the Kyrie Irving trade at the deadline. So they could try a package of picks to Portland. So then Miami can send a couple first round picks to Portland. Brooklyn can also send a couple first round picks. And then Hero goes to Brooklyn, Lillard to Miami. And then I think it would have to be like Duncan Robinson also to
yeah,
Portland. Um, they don't want to include Caleb Martin in the trade, who was a key player on their run to the finals this year. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the Lillard trade, but they're
yeah,
still trying to work on it, and they do want to accommodate his request, and his top team is Miami, so I think he will end up in Miami. It's just a matter of what third team will be involved and what Portland will get back. They want a star back. I don't know if they're going to get a star. They could definitely get a lot of picks. We'll see what
yeah.
happens. Do you want to add anything on?
I mean, you pretty much covered it. To me, it's not really a matter of if the deal's happening, it's just when.
Yeah.
Um, and we may see him suit up for the Blazers this season. I doubt it, but it's probably going to take some time to find the right third team to be a suitor for both of them. Um, Tyler Hero, like, he just wasn't that impressive last season. And for the money he's making, I just don't see someone like thinking it's that worth it to help the Heat get Dame taking on Hero, and having to give up a key piece of their team. So, yeah.
Okay, we have our next question from them. They said, "Who's your favorite for next year?" They still have Denver.
I mean, it's kind of hard not to still have Denver. 'Cause I don't. I mean, LA, the Lakers are out there too. Um, but it's. I mean, Denver really hasn't changed that much. Um, and they just dominated last year or this year.
Yeah,
Um, like it really what once it got to the playoffs, it wasn't close. And you usually have like the Suns were a Western Conference team that dominated the regular season and couldn't get it done in the postseason, but Denver just dominated all the way through. Um, and they're really like I'm not gonna say they're not a perfectly balanced team because they're definitely better on offense than they are on defense. Um, but their offense is really really good, and they have a bunch of options. Even when their stars aren't necessarily hitting, and their defense, like it's not terrible. So like it's not like they're in a situation like the Suns. Um, and I don't know. They're such a balanced team. It's hard not to pick the Nuggets again. I think the Lakers could be a good second option. I don't really see an Eastern Conference team making that jump. Um, like especially with the Heat being the team that just made the finals. Like I don't know. I don't think anybody deserved to make the finals from the Eastern Conference.
yeah. I think Denver is um, still the favorite. I think Phoenix and the Lakers, obviously I cover the Lakers, so I'm a little biased there. Um, but I do think the Lakers' depth could make a run at Denver this coming year. They now have the forwards and size to throw at Jamal Murray, which we didn't have last year. We were playing guards on him, and having length can disrupt him. Jokic is going to have a good game regardless, and
Yeah,
Anthony Davis is the best defender we can have on him. Maybe anyone in the league can have on him. So we weren't going to get a Jokic stopper. The Murray stopper, we have bodies to throw at him. Will it work? We don't know. But they've loaded up to where they can try and disrupt Murray and take down Denver. In the East, I think Milwaukee could have a bounce back year if they can stay healthy. Middleton was injured throughout a lot of the season. So if he has a full season and gets back to how he was playing in the 2021 title year for the Bucks, I think they can make a run at Denver in the finals.
yeah.
Boston, I don't know how they're going to look without Marcus Smart, even though they brought on Porzingis.
I don't like that fit there.
Yeah, I
I
don't.
didn't see the move.
Yeah, I'm
Or
not sure how that's going to work. So
no.
he's he's an injured big man sometimes. Um, they already have
And he has
Robert Williams, and Robert Williams gets injured a lot. So they have two centers now that have injury history. So they're gonna have to hope they stay healthy or they're not in a great spot. And other than that, I think Miami can be a contender if they land Lillard. Obviously, they made the finals this year, but I don't think they're going to again. They've lost some key role players, Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. So unless they land Lillard, I don't think they will be a contender this year.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
the Sixers after last year, they had the opportunity right there. It's hard to say they'd be even close to contenders. I mean, they're always technically contenders because of Embiid and whoever on their roster, but it's just you can't really put them in that category.
yeah, yeah. I think Denver's going to be the favorite again. And oh, still commenting. Lakers is win now or rebuild. Would that qualify as a hot take? I don't think they're win now necessarily. They obviously have a lot of win now pieces. Obviously, LeBron's going to be entering his 21st year in the league. They have Anthony Davis, who is coming into the last year of his deal. He might have one more after, but I know he's extension eligible in August, and they're going to look to extend him. So he's going to be the cornerstone of their franchise even after LeBron leaves. And they
Yeah,
have guys like Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura under long-term contracts. Obviously, still young players. They excelled in the postseason this year. I don't think they're a win now or rebuild team. Once LeBron leaves, they'll obviously have to adapt, whether that's signing another star or going in a few years where they're not going to be contenders, but I think they'll still be a playoff team then with Davis, Reeves, and Hachimura. Even if LeBron, this is his last year with the Lakers coming up. I think it
Yeah,
could go a bunch of different ways. LeBron also might play a couple more years with the Lakers. It really depends on if he wants to play with Bronny and if Bronny comes out of the draft after 1 year at USC. LeBron could also just retire after this year. He talked about it at the end of this season, but he's going to be coming back for his 21st year.
yeah.
So I think the Lakers, they'll be fine. Oh, we just got something from Woj. Dante DiVincenzo has agreed on a 4 year, $50 million deal with the New York Knicks. That's been rumored for days that DiVincenzo will end up there. He played in college with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, I believe. So they're
Yeah,
bringing, I think they all played at Villanova.
yeah. I I
Good role
mean,
player for them.
yeah, not a blockbuster move.
Yeah, let me add
I
it
I
too.
really like. I mean, Josh Hart when he went to the Knicks, that was such a good move for them.
Yeah, he's
I'm
been
like,
great for them.
I really like seeing him play on the Knicks. So I'm glad they got him back.
Yeah, that's a good move for uh New York with DiVincenzo too. I like him as a role player. 4 years, 50 million is not as much as I was expecting him to get, but
They got a pretty good contract. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, okay. For Boston, I worry not about the injury history, but not they have no vocal leader. Yeah, I think it's the injury and not having Marcus Smart in the locker room. They haven't replaced his voice. Al Horford, I think, is a good leader, but Marcus Smart, I feel like, is calling guys out. I don't know if Horford's doing that. I think he's just a good veteran presence. So definitely will be interesting to see how Boston handles that. And going back to the Lakers, I think they'll be good this year. Maybe the next few years depends on LeBron, but I don't think they're gonna just tear it down once LeBron's left. So I think they're still
yeah,
gonna be a competitive team. They're also a team that usually doesn't like to rebuild. We rebuilt after Kobe was like having
yeah.
injuries. We started building up a young core. But besides that, if you look at Lakers history, they're always trying to do whatever they can to compete for a championship.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll rebuild. I think they'll retool once LeBron leaves, but I think they'll still be competitive. And I think Anthony Davis will still be a Laker then. So we'll still be somewhat competitive. So let's think about New York's roster altogether now that they have DiVincenzo. So at the moment, they're also in trade rumors for a few different players, but they have Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson as their stars, and then DiVincenzo and Hart, two of their key role players, Mitchell Robinson. What do you think about New York coming up this year? They were, I think, the fifth seed this year and advanced to the second round before losing to Miami.
I mean, I think they'll be pretty much the same team they were last year. Um, I I guess it could change if they do land some of the players. Like if they landed Harden, if they traded for Harden, I don't know how much better they would be. I don't know. I just like middle of the pack of the playoff teams is where I see the Knicks. I didn't expect them to make it out of the first round last year, but they did. So I mean, they're better than I like give them credit for. Um, but I just don't see them like maybe I can't predict their record, so maybe record wise they'll be top three, but I just can't see them actually being like a top three team in the East. Um, just like maybe the Sixers will fall out of that category. But there's still some good talent in the East. Um, yeah, I don't know if the Knicks have what it takes to really contend for a championship and be like solidify themselves as one of the top teams.
Yeah, I think It'll be interesting to see if they make a trade. If they make a play for Harden, it's possible they could be a higher seed in the Eastern Conference. Even then, I don't know if they'd be a contender,
Yeah,
but it'll be interesting to see what they do. I do like what they're doing with their role players. They have a lot of good role players around Brunson and Randall. Randall's been a great player, but in the playoffs, he's kind of been up and down. So I don't know where they're going to be at. I think, like you said, they'll probably be around the same spot, maybe fourth or fifth seed in the East, and maybe they'll make it out of the first round again. But I don't see them making it to the conference finals.
yeah.
And we have another question: 80 over under games in the regular season.
Oh God.
I'm
Um,
optimistic. I'm saying 65 is the number.
and I was gonna say 60.
I think
I
he's
was gonna
going to
say
play
60.
65 games. That's what I would predict.
I mean, because he did like the problem on eight. Like when people were looking at God, I had to write an article for Basketball Network, and it was listing out every AD injury this season, and there were a bunch of them. But he missed like a day for most of them, like one game for most of them.
Yeah,
He just missed a couple months because of one injury. Um, so I mean, I don't necessarily think like I think he could stay healthy this season. I'm pretty optimistic with that. And even if he gets some like minor tweaks, I don't think it should cost him that many games.
yeah,
Um, I mean, 65, I'd say is still pretty reasonable.
yeah. And
Um,
covering the Lakers, he had a lot of little injuries in games, and he would go to the
yeah,
locker room for a few minutes, and
come
then he
back
would
up.
come back and finish out the game.
Like
So,
even the right shoulder injury that looked like it was like some freak injury. He just kept them out for like a few quarters, a couple quarters.
yeah, he's
Um,
had a lot of those. And then the one where he missed a couple months, that was, I think he was landing on someone's ankle.
yeah,
Um, he's had a lot of injuries like that over the last few years where it's just an unlucky
like a freak
circumstance. Like
accident.
landing on someone's ankle, you can't control that.
That's what happened to me. It sucked.
Yeah.
It sucked.
So I think he's gonna work on it in the off season. I'm sure he's been training. I saw he was doing like an endurance workout, like he was boxing the other day, which a lot of players do for endurance. So I
Mm,
think he's gonna keep working this summer, and I think he'll play around 65 games. 65 games is also the number I believe to be nominated for awards now with the new deal they made.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So 65 is a good target for him too, so he could be eligible to win Defensive Player of the Year, make it to an All NBA team, stuff like that. And then, okay, they commented about the Knicks rotation: Brunson, Hart, RJ, Randall, Mitch, with a bench of Quickly, DiVincenzo, Fournier, Sims, Hartenstein. Yeah, it's not a great rotation. They have depth, but they don't have another. I think they need another star. I like
Yeah,
Brunson. He had a breakout year with Dallas 2 years ago. Then they signed him, and he had almost an All-Star year. Randall made an All NBA team this year, and they're a good team. They just don't have that
yeah,
quality for a title.
yeah.
So I think Knicks 4 or 5 seed. But yeah, so let's talk about the extensions. There's been a lot of extensions. LaMelo got a max extension worth up to 260 million with the Hornets. What do you think about that?
I mean, the Hornets are just going downhill, man. Like $260 million for Melo, who really has not given you like all that much in his career, is crazy. And like it's the second highest paid contract in NBA history behind
Yeah, it's
Jokic.
it's gonna be up
But
there.
I think that's what I just saw in StatMuse or something. Like that's crazy. And I mean, I understand the upside and this potential and whatever, but I don't know. I mean, they do have money, like more money than other teams, but I don't know. I just the Hornets are in shambles right now. Didn't
Yeah,
they? Did they offer Bridges a contract or no?
he is currently restricted free agent for them. And I saw Rich Paul and Clutch Sports were considering asking the Hornets to pull the qualifying offer so he'd be unrestricted. I don't think that's happened, but I saw they were considering it. And I don't believe the Hornets have offered a contract yet. And LaMelo has an injury history, so
Yeah, he's not.
$260 million deal for him, I wouldn't have made. I get that Charlotte's not a free agent destination. They kind of have to grow within, and LaMelo has been their best player. But even then, giving him this big of an extension, I don't know.
Yeah, that's an insane contract.
Yeah. Like last year, he had two big injuries where he missed a good chunk of the season. And he's had injuries in previous seasons as well.
Yeah,
When he's on the floor, he's a talented playmaker and scorer. Could be a little more efficient. Sometimes he takes some bad shots, but overall he's a good player. It's just with his
yeah,
injury history and they haven't surrounded him with any talent. I don't know what their plan is. They're gonna have to formulate something around him during these 5 years because if not, you're just paying LaMelo to just be on a bad team, which doesn't make much sense.
and I mean, even like he's good, and I guess he still has potential, but he's been injured so much that like his upside has gone downhill, and I don't know. Yes, he's good when he's playing. He's not 260 M's good. Like as of this stage in his career, so you're banking on him taking another like huge leap and being one of the best players in the league. Um, and I guess he's a big name, something to attract fans to the Hornets who are really unattractive to fans right now.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I guess he got a bag. Good for him. I mean, I don't know where else he'd really spend it, but it's just a lot more than I would have given.
Yeah, I wouldn't have given him that big of a deal, but to keep him in Charlotte, they do have to pay him more than a typical team would. Like
Yeah,
if LeBron had retired, I'm sure the Lakers would have pursued LaMelo. And going to LA, he would have been more enticed to take a slightly cheaper deal because of all the endorsement deals you can get there and playing for the Lakers, his hometown. Something like
yeah,
that. Not necessarily the Lakers would do that, but just as an example. Charlotte, teams in a smaller market do have to overpay to keep their stars around, so I see why they did it, but with his injury history, I don't know if it's a great move for their franchise.
wouldn't be worth it. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the Houston Rockets a little more. We talked about them earlier. They have signed Fred VanVleet to a 3-year, $130 million deal and did a sign and trade to acquire Dylan Brooks, which will be a 4-year, $80 million deal. How do you think the Rockets have stacked up with other teams in free agency?
I mean, I think I also saw that they were close to closing a deal with Patty Mills, um,
Yes.
which would be another good addition for them. They're a young team, and like I said before, they have young talent, which is good to have. Like, I think the Spurs are in a little bit of a better position with their young talent because they are really like they are very talented now, but they also have really good mentors like in the coaching staff and former players. Like Wemby's gonna have great mentorship. Um, the Rockets, I don't know if they have that level of mentorship in like their staff or as much as the Spurs do. So I think having it in the locker room with these new vets, um, and they're not like that seasoned vets, but they have more experience than some of the players that are there. And Fred VanVleet, I think if he can get a little bit some of his efficiency back, he's never been like crazy efficient, but if he can be more efficient this season, um, and get back to the point where he was dominating, um, he could be nasty for the Rockets. I mean, they do have a lot of guard talent, which is kind of concerning, but they do now have a defensive forward in Brooks, which I think is really helpful. And he's someone to bring. not only like um veteran mentality, but like he's someone that'll be a dog mentality, like more than anything.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was on like the Rockets didn't have that before. Like PJ Tucker, he's not there anymore. So now a younger Dylan Brooks who can still score the ball is gonna be a good anchor for them on defense, and he's gonna play hard. And I think he's gonna put some hustle into the younger guys, um, and maybe push them into maybe a playing spot. I think they've done really well in free agency so far.
Yeah, they had money to spend and they went out and signed quality players. Van Vliet obviously headlining that group, and Brooks, a defensive minded player. Then Jock Landale, good backup center for Sengun, and then trading for Patty Mills, a veteran who can be that leader in their locker room, because Brooks is a great fit as a defensive guy, but I wouldn't want him to be their veteran leader.
No,
And Van Vliet
yeah,
obviously could be a good leader too. So I think between him and Patty Mills, that'll be more
hmm
mature for their locker room. And we just had a comment. So their starting lineup, um, Fred Van Vliet, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr., and Sengun. And then Mills, Porter, Tate, Eason, and Landale off the bench. And he thinks
I mean
they'll be around a 10th seed in the West.
that's a solid squad. I could see them being like if the young guys play to their potential
Yeah,
and progress, I could see them being between 8 and 10. I just playing would be their goal. And maybe making the playoffs through the plan, but definitely making the plan would be a step up from where they've been the past few seasons for sure.
agreed.
Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, like they'll have great locker room leadership now with Patty Mills and Van Vliet, but like I think Dylan Brooks will mainly make his impact on the court. And if like the younger guys have their energy down or they're just not into it, he'll be able to pick them up and you know get them more hype. And I think like he just came from a team in Memphis that had like the youth and John Morant, um, and his like his walkout with the little dance, like that was something that got them going before the game. So I think having some of that type of culture in Houston could definitely help them to
Yes.
get to that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll be around the play-in, like you said, and like our comment said, 10th seed. The West has a lot of competitive teams. I like that the Rockets are making a push to be in that group. They
Yeah,
did overpay for the players they got, but I do understand that they want to spend their money and they're trying to be somewhat competitive with their young core. So I think it's a good move for them to go for these guys. Now, we'll see how the young guys develop. We'll need Jalen Green to become a more consistent player. He's obviously a quality scorer, but his efficiency is all over the place. And then
yeah,
Sengun had a great year. I think he's their
mm.
centerpiece. Um, they have a lot
That
of
hybrid.
talented young players, but he's been really consistent with his role. Jabari Smith's rookie year, up and down, a little better towards the end of the year. And then solid young guys off the bench. They're not stars, but Kevin Porter Jr., good bench scorer. I think, again, he's another player that needs to become more efficient. And with more talented players, he could. So we'll see how they work. Tate, good wing off the bench. Same with Eason. So I like their group. I think they could be, again, a play-in team in the West. It'll be interesting to see how they mesh together with now veterans in their locker room.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, let's talk about the Pacers. They've had an interesting free agency and some trades. They extended Halliburton, which I think was a good move for them.
Mm.
He's been a
He's not a
great
bad.
piece since coming over.
Yeah,
And they signed Bruce Brown, who is one of the biggest free agents on the market, for 2 years, $45 million, which is a big payday for him. But again, Indiana is one of those smaller market teams. If they want to get a guy, they're going to have to overpay a little bit. And what do you think about the Pacers' move so far?
I mean, it's hard to see the Pacers like as more than a bottom five team, but I think they like for a while they were amongst the teams that were like in the 6 to 8 realm,
Yeah, I remember
making
looking at them. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they were always like a sneaky good team, and I would like to see them work back up to that status. They have some really talented young guys, and I don't know if it's gonna be this year. It might not even be next year, but in a few years, they could be really solid. Um, Obviously, we don't know who they're gonna sign and whatnot, but Halliburton has been great for them. Um, and I think 100% he deserves his contract more than Melo, because he's produced more and been on the court more. Um, and then you got other young talent on that team, and adding a guy like Bruce Brown, who, like you said, is one of the top free agents on the market. Um, yeah, they've definitely improved the roster, and I think their main improvements are gonna come from within, with just the players progressing. Um, Allie's probably gonna take another leap, and you know, yeah, they're just gonna keep progressing.
Yeah, I think Indiana's done a good job. They've surrounded their group with more quality role players. Halliburton's obviously their star. Miles Turner, great center. They extended him in the middle of the season last year. And then they have guys like Buddy Hield already. They
Hmm.
took Jarris Walker in the draft.
I mean,
I
you
think they
know better
did.
than me.
Um, he's a good power forward. I'll verify real quick. Pretty sure that's who they took. Yeah. So Jarris Walker is a. Hang on, let me get the cameras back up now that I Google something. There we go. Jarris Walker could be a solid player. He's eighth overall pick. And they have a good group in place. They have their pick from last year, Benedict Mathurin at small forward.
Yeah, uh,
I think Bruce Brown's going to start, so I think Buddy Hield will become the sixth man for them unless they move him. But as it indicates right
they took,
now, it looks like he's going to be in Indiana. The Lakers obviously were interested in him and Miles Turner leading up to the draft, but they did not make a move for him, and they've already solidified their rotation now, so they're not going to be interested in Hield. And I haven't seen any other teams looking to trade for him. So I think Hield will be their sixth man, and I think they
yeah,
have a solid group. They can make a push for the play-in. I don't know if they'll go any higher than that, but the East is kind of top heavy, so that maybe they
yeah,
could push to a sixth seed and avoid the play-in. We'll have to see. I think Halliburton would have to take another jump for that to happen. But I like what they've done in free agency so far, even though they've had to overpay. Again, small market, you're going to have to
yeah,
overpay for good players, and that's what they've done. Like the Lakers, I heard were the leading offer. He was going to sign there on the mid-level exception until the Pacers offered the 22 and a
yeah,
half million per year. And as a guy who covers the Lakers, I like Bruce Brown doing that. It's his first big contract. He's been a role player throughout his career where he's gotten pretty low salaries. Your first big free agency, you got to take a big deal. That's
yeah,
After that, if you want to go win a championship and take a discount somewhere, that's good. But when you're first hitting the free agency market, take
absolutely.
a big deal. And okay, he wants us to talk about the Jazz next, and he also said Jeff Green to the Rockets.
Mm,
That's an interesting one. Another bet for them.
yeah, I mean they keep making moves.
Yeah, they've definitely been one of the more active teams, and that's another good veteran for them to have in
Yeah,
their
I
locker
like
room.
that.
And he's a really good veteran leader. He's been on
Yeah,
many big teams, obviously, just playing for the Nuggets last year.
yeah,
And now he will go to the Rockets, be a good mentor for those young guys. He might not see a ton of minutes, but when he does, he can still poster someone, even though he's
yeah.
really up there in
And I mean
age for an
he's
NBA
more of
player.
an impact in the locker room than on the court, but
Yeah,
teams need that for sure.
yeah, I like that signing. And now we'll shift to the Jazz. Now they traded for John Collins, and now they have a loaded front court, but how it's gonna fit is interesting. Lauri Markkanen had a great year playing power forward for the Jazz, career year. They have Walker Kessler at center. John Collins is obviously a natural power forward, can play a little small ball center. They can move Markkanen to the three, but he has not been great in that really. He did that in Cleveland, and he says Markkanen clearly can't play the three, so it's a very awkward team right now.
No,
So
it is
Collins maybe off the bench because I don't know if they're gonna
weird.
do that. I think if Markkanen struggles out of the gate at small forward, they might do that. They're not gonna bench
Yeah,
Markkanen. They're not gonna bench Kessler, but I don't know.
I mean, John Collins' contract is like too big to have coming off the bench. But like, if you need to make it fit, you need to make it fit.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I mean, they definitely gotten better. Uh, I don't know. There was always rumors about, oh, John Collins to the Sixers. I was never like a big fan of Collins, in terms of trading for him. Like the Jazz won the trade for sure, but
yes.
I don't. It's so hard because they were so good to start the season last year, then it completely fell off. Like Collins may be a piece that can help them stay consistent past the first few weeks into the season. Um, but they also got George Niang from the Sixers. Um, he could be a pretty good piece off the bench. Like his role is to just come in and hit a couple of shots.
Wait, did he
Very.
sign there or did he sign with Cleveland?
Did he sign with Cleveland? I thought he signed with the Jazz.
I thought he went to Cleveland. I could look. You keep
Let me check.
going. I'll look it up.
Um, I mean, like you said, very talented front court. Walker Kessler is gonna be um continue to get better. Uh, Laurie did not show signs of slowing down last season. I think he's still gonna be the same player he was. And if he is, adding another solid player like John Collins, even off the bench, is gonna be good for them. They definitely have the tools, um, but you know,
Yeah, Niang went to the Cavs.
the Cavs, yeah. I don't know why I was thinking the Jazz.
Yeah.
Uh,
He just said Aaron Gordon is like the better version of John Collins. It's not a bad comp. I think
no,
Gordon's a way better defender, but
yeah,
as far as play styles, they can both shoot the three a little bit, but they're not great. They're both
yeah.
great at dunking on people. That's like lob
I mean,
threats.
I remember I was at work when John Collins got his new contract, and I was laughing so hard. I
Yeah, it
was like,
was
all
a
right,
terrible contract.
I get needing to pay him, but come on. Like, this is gonna haunt you for years. Like, he's not that good. Was he the one they made the post about, like, the future MVP post about the Hawks?
Yes. Yeah.
That, uh, the freezing cold takes, oh my god.
Yeah, that was yeah. That was a bad contract. And I think he has 3 years left, 78 million.
Uh,
So Collins fit in not Indiana, in Utah is going to be a work in progress. We're going to see if Markkanen moves back to the three. Now, offensively, that would be fine. It's defensively where
yeah,
it's tough to gauge that. Markkanen obviously doesn't have the foot speed to be a regular small forward. Collins maybe can defend the small forwards a little more. So maybe
yeah,
they do that, but Collins has never played small forward in his career, so I don't know. It'll be
yeah,
interesting to see how they manage that. But Utah, they definitely have improved. They also had 3 first round picks, which were Keontae George, Taylor Hendricks, and I think it was Bryce Sensabaugh was the last one. So there's 3 young guys they're going to put in their rotation. 2 of them are, again, front court players.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see how those guys get minutes in their first year. Maybe they have Sensabaugh playing more in the G League or just not getting a lot of minutes. I do think Hendricks, since he was a high pick, will get minutes off the bench. and Keontae George should find minutes at the guard position. We don't really know what they're going to be. I think have they
Yeah.
re-signed Jordan Clarkson?
Uh, I think he opted into his contract.
Oh,
Yeah.
he that's what
Uh,
it was. Yes.
yeah.
So Clarkson will return. THT opted in, so THT will return. They still don't have a real point guard to orchestrate
Yeah.
their team. So that's what I would expect them to look for in free agency. Just doesn't have to be necessarily a great all-around player. They just need a good playmaker. So
Yeah.
point guards on the market, if they could find a playmaker, that's who they should target, or maybe via trade. Now let's talk about the Chicago Bulls because I don't know what they're doing. They are re-signing everyone and trying to run back a team that just made the play-in tournament.
Like, I don't know. I think everybody was like, I mean, the duo of DeMar DeRozan and um Zach Levine, like, it's solid, but at the same time, both players were pretty much available for trade. Like, you're not gonna have your two superstars on a team both be available if you're a contender. And Chicago is a big market, so they should be a contending team for the most part, and they were, but it didn't work, and they don't seem to care that it didn't work. Um, which is unfortunate for them, but like re-signing Vooch for uh,
Yeah,
so
3 years,
dumb.
60 million.
No, like he's not worth it at all. Um, and I don't know, like one of the trades that Harden has been mentioned, like I don't know about mentioning like by like in official reports, but mentioning throughout the offseason is for Zach Levine, if he's available for trade, which I don't know. I don't see like that would benefit the Sixers more than it would benefit the Bulls because it's another aging guard who's not in their prime. But I mean, he's like DeRozan will have a couple games where he pops off.
Yeah.
That's about it. Um, and you can't just bank on like your superstar having a couple games where you pop off. They need a real star, or they just break it down and all rebuild until like being a middle of the pack team in the NBA is so pointless.
Yeah.
Like they're making sure they're gonna be a middle of the pack team. Um, and they could have tried at least tried something new. Um, without really getting worse, but I don't know.
Yeah, they also re-signed Kobe White on a 3-year, $33 million deal. He's a young guard. I don't mind
Yeah,
that signing as much. And they also signed Javon Carter. He's a player I like on a 3-year, $20 million deal. But
yeah,
all around, I don't like the idea of running it back. I
mm-mm.
think they're holding on to the hope of when Alonzo was healthy. Obviously, they know he's not going to be healthy this
Oh
year. But when he
yeah,
was healthy, they were the one seed at the trade deadline after they acquired Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan in that offseason. But since Lonzo's injury, then they've gone downhill and they haven't
yeah,
been back to that level. So I don't know what the front office's idea of running it back is when one of those players that was crucial on that run isn't going to be healthy this year and might not even play basketball again. So
yeah.
I don't like what they've been doing. I think you either need to tear it down or find an
Accept the
avenue
fact.
to change up their team. They can't keep running back the same team. And little additions like Javon Carter, as much of a good role player he is, he's not going to change your core. And you also have a ton of guards now. They have Kobe
Yeah,
White, Zach Levine, Alex Caruso. There's more I'm sure I'm not thinking. I don't know if they brought back Ayo Dosunmu. I think he was a free agent. So they just have so many guards on their roster. Running it back, not a good idea. The comment says Bulls don't have a true power forward. I mean, I think they've been playing Patrick Williams there. Um, but yeah, Williams is, I don't know,
not.
more of a small forward, maybe.
Yeah,
Defensive guy.
I feel for Kenny Beecham, man.
Yeah,
He's such a great YouTuber, but God, he's gotten unlucky.
yeah. They haven't been a quality team since really Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
that
I mean,
one half season.
I really thought they were gonna get there.
I
I really
think if
thought they were gonna.
Lonzo stayed healthy, we'd be looking at this completely different right now.
Yeah, I mean, Lonzo, like, he got a lot better, and I think he really found his role with the team, which
Yeah,
is why it's disappointing because he wasn't what he was supposed to be coming out of college, and he wasn't necessarily what he was supposed to be, but like he found out what works for him, and he was thriving in that role, and the Bulls were thriving when he was thriving in that role. So it is sad.
yeah. So looks like you have to go. So you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up for today. We might come back in a few days for another free agency live stream if there's more impactful moves that we have to talk about. If not, then join us next time for just a regular podcast. It won't be live.
yep.
And we'll see you then. Thanks for stopping by. I've been Ben. This is Hunter, and we'll see you next time at Hoopcast.